to be seated. Now we have a session on radio focusing on the resurgence of oral cultures in the age of podcasting. I request our esteemed speakers to kindly come on the dais. Shri Yuvraj Malik, Director, National Book Trust, India. Ms. Anna Babina from the Russian Federation. Mr. Sayak Pal, India. And Professor Ranjana Saxena. Zhu Han from the People's Republic of China, who is not present here but has sent a presentation on the theme. Mr. Sayak Pal, please come on the dais. Before we start the session, as per the tradition of National Book Trust India, I request Ms. Shobha Kapoor, Head Corporate Communications, National Book Trust India, to kindly felicitate our esteemed speakers on the dais. Mr. Sayak Pal. Professor Ranjana Saxena. Thank you, ma'am. Our moderator of this session, Professor Ranjana Saxena, is a former professor at the Department of Slavonic and Finno-Ugrian Studies, University of Delhi. Is a distinguished scholar of Russian literature and contemporary Russian women's writing. She has been awarded the Pushkin Medal, Bene Merito, and Dostoevsky Star Award. She has authors translated and presented extensively at global forums. Her translations span Bulgakov to Bhishma Sahani, reflecting her deep engagement in promoting Russian and Indian cultural exchange. I now request Professor Saxena to kindly start the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. We are just starting our session, the first session of the day. I would request the first speaker of this session is Mr. Hu Yan from the People's Republic of China. I would introduce the speaker, but as the speaker is not here physically present, so the organizers will play his speech on the, you will hear the speech. Mr. Wu Yan, with the pen name of Han Yu, is a lecturer and master's supervisor at the School of Literature, Nanjing University of Information Science and Technology. With a PhD from Autonomous University of Madrid in Spain, he is also an online writer. Can we please have the audio? Oh, we have a video.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Xu Han. My underpaid name is Han Yu. It is a pleasure to speak at this conference. Also, unable to be there in person due to the weather conditions. I'd still like to extend my warmest wishes to everyone present. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to join you via video. I'm a university teacher from Nanjing University of Information Science and Technology. And I also an online literature writer come from Fanqie NovelNet. Today, I would like to use the specific case of evolution and the global expansion of Chinese online literature to discuss how media convergence has not only reshaped the content industry, but also become a powerful energy of cultural exchange. So first, we're talking about the starting point of convergence, how online literature restructured the narrative logic of the TV era. In the era of the traditional media, television was the entertainment center of the home, while linear and one-way storytelling. An episode was broadcast at a fixed time, and the audience passively received it. The birth of online literature was itself an act of convergence and transformation, where digital technology merged with the traditional narrative models. It absorbs the narrative essence of traditional fiction, participatory Chinese chapter-based novels, but utilized the immediacy and the interactivity of the Internet to develop it into a serialized model. This is similar to a TV daily scoop opera, but the crucial difference is that author can adjust the plot based on readers' real-time comments and vote on each chapter. This circle of author creation, reader feedback, work interaction represent a deep integration of digital communication into traditional narrative logic, transforming content production from one-way broadcasting into two-way co-creation. And second, we're talking the depending of convergence from online text to transmedia existence and the evolution of traditional media's role. The success of online literature did not stop at online text. The deeper convergence is reflected in how it can empowers traditional media forms, particularly the television and the film industry in China. Many of the most popular TV dramas are adaptations of online novels. For example, the very famous works like《琅琊榜》or《庆余年》. First, they are accumulate millions of readers on the high price online before, and being adapted into a TV series, they become very, very popular. So it becoming a cultural phenomenon. This process perfect and illustrates the media convergence. First, the digital platforms become the testing ground and occupied for innovation, low cost, high efficiency online. Serializations can actually take the market's response, significantly reducing the risk of traditional film and TV investments. The second, the traditional media leverages its activity and mass communication influence. It takes proven, exactly stories and through high-quality production. Researches a broad audience, including those who may not frequently engage with the online literature. This convergence model of digital incubation, traditional amplification, context industrial chain for online to offline, from niche to mainstream, forming a virtuous circle with a transmedia ecosystem. And third, we're talking about the globalized convergence, the growing global of Chinese online literature, a new bridge for cultural exchange. When this material convergence model goes global, it transcends the commons and becomes a bridge of cultural exchange. This is the most enlightening part I wish to share with you. Overseas platforms like Word Novel now not only translate and export Chinese online literature, but also replicated the proven convergence model. It first functioned as a digital community, attracting global readers. It simultaneously creates overseas original authors. Currently, I think it's over 350,000 international writers created on the platform, integrating their local cultures into genres inspired by Chinese online literature. Ultimately, these qualities IPs also have the potential to be adapted by global STEAM platforms, replicating the digital incubation, traditional amplifications based on a worldwide scale. In this process, I think the Indian author's the name is Hui Jing, winning an international award for the work Nightmare, the Chinese name Ye Huo, is a vivid example for this convergence model's success. This is no longer a simple culture export. It is a deep integrating of different cultures in creating contact and narratives techniques. Facilitated by the digital platforms, ultimately achieving widespread dissemination through traditional mass media. So finally, my conclusion is the future of convergence is boundless and symbiotic. Ladies and gentlemen, returning to our focus today, the integration of traditional and digital media. The development path of Chinese online literature tells us convergence is not about replacement, but about complementary advantages. The ultimate goal of convergence is to build a more dynamic and sustainable contact ecosystem. When this model crosses borders, it can effectively promote mutual learning among civilizations, enabling a more equal and deeper dialogue between cultures and a digital age. As the ancient Indian wisdom says, the whole world is a family. The ultimate versions of media convergence might be to break down the boundaries between media and cultures, allowing our shared story to thrive on an infinitely context digital planet. So this is what I want to share with you. Thank you so much. I hope we can see in the future. Thank you.
Now we move on to the second speaker of the session. Yeah. We move on to the second speaker of this session, Dr. Sayak Pal from India. Before I ask him to share his views with us, I would like to introduce Dr. Sayak Pal, who is an assistant professor at the Department of Mass Communication, Faculty of Arts and Social Studies, St. Xavier's University, Kolkata. He has a master's, PhD and NET in Media and Communication, along with PGDM in Marketing and Media Management. His notable works include New Media Landscape and Dimensions, An Indian Perspective and Sustainable Development Goals, a handbook based on media perspective. Dr. Sayak Pal.
Very good morning. Thank you, SCO and NBT, for giving us this platform. And what I believe that whenever we go for any conference or any discussions, what is the meaning of the conference if something fruitful doesn't come out of it, right? So it's not going to be only discussions that I'm going to stress on. I'm going to start with some of the foundations. For example, a little bit background about the podcasting and how the industry evolved over the time, and then we'll move on to benefits and recommendations or the drawbacks of this society, how how podcasting this industry is actually progressing, and what we are not doing right probably, and what are the scopes that we can have, right? Because that is going to be the pathway for next generation podcasters or the current podcasters who are actually creating content. So little history, founder stone, without which we cannot move forward with the future. Like we have seen 2018 to 2023, there's a number of podcast listeners that has roughly gone from 40 millions to 120 millions. As I am also a person who is from social work, social studies background and social science background, but I work with data and analytics as well. So it's a mixture of both of it. Now we have also seen 2015 IVM podcast, audio booms. Then we have Ghana, Savan apps that came up. Then Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. Then vernacular podcast system that started producing a lot of content over a period of time, that we have seen the influxes in 2019, especially during the COVID, where the content creation has grown to a different level, right? Now, before we move on, I have pointed out 5 benefits as well as the drawbacks. We will talk on it. I'm sure there might be questions on it. Just to start off with, Yuval Noah Harari, in his Nexus book, what he says that storytelling has it has an immense power to it. Right. What we learn through the storytelling, we had a discussion in the last sessions where Guru and Shishya Parampara, we have known the Vedas, where they have learned, the Shishyas have learned the scriptures and the learnings from the Gurus, right? So same thing has also been part of folklores. Now the first benefit that I'm going to talk about is aligning to the SGD, because I also work on sustainability in some of my works. Now SGD 4, which we talk about the quality education. Now there are lot of portals, for example, lot of podcasters and YouTube content creators who are actually continuously creating content on educational forefront. For example, when I was also preparing for my own examinations, I actually followed the podcasters who actually created content for not only for NET or SET or PhD preparations, but on UPSC preparations or different national level examination preparations also, right? We have on GRE, NET, UPSC and IAS preparations. And now we can actually see that how students can actually go and find out on YouTube what kind of questions they can find out if they are selected in IAS exams, right? So that is one thing, but what is the drawback of it? We do not have any particular filtration system when it comes to audio. Like we talk about misinformation, disinformation continuously, and it's being in the discussions for last 5-6 years, even more to that, and the discussion has gone to international level as well. But we do not have, it's not possible always to have a funnel on content creation, especially on the audio platform. But is there, that's a drawback. The second point would be reviving the traditions with the help of mythology. Here I want to take example of some of the channels. When I ask my students in the class that, do you know about this folklore? Do you know about the stories of Mahabharata or Ramayana or any of the ancient mythologies? They know the skeletal of it. Probably they have gone through the illustrated books of Ramayana and Mahabharata, but they do not know, because what these stories tells us, they are also the learnings and the teachings, right, through the stories. So there are a couple of channels. I would say that there are Epified is one of the channels who are actually, creating or audio, podcasts and audios, videos, combining audios with videos and whiteboard animations where they are actually reviving the cultures, talking about different traditions, art forms. For example, there's a very famous video on Tulsi Vivaah. So I don't know how many of you have heard about this ritual, Tulsi Vivaah. So there's a mythological perspective on it. There's also a cultural perspective on it. So these channels are actually creating videos on it. But what is a drawback is that, as I said, people are, even in the last discussions, panelists have discussed, or the experts have discussed that people are actually going behind popularity. And that is not, that is not only the case of cultures or creativity, that is also in the case of media and communication, in the podcasting as well. So they are constantly running behind what kind of content are going to be very, very popular. Whether it's a nursery rhyme and turning nursery rhyming into something else, or for example, in mythological stories, they are turning mythological stories. In the name of fact finding, there are many podcasters who are actually, giving logics which are in some ways illogical or which are not true, right? So again, many of them are actually mixing up popularity with the actual facts. So that is a drawback. Third point would be, again, educational institutions. Like there are NPTL and UGC MOOCs and even universities, interestingly, they are also coming up with podcasts and they are also coming up with MOOCs, right? Like I have one of my senior professors, she's an anthropologist and she keeps on, she has a podcast on Spotify where she talks about small stories about India and subcontinent and from the South Asian perspective, where she has had her journey, she has studied on it, and she picks up small stories from the very rural and rural areas, and she creates podcast out of it. These are the good things that are actually coming in, but there are also initiatives from IITs, MITs. I mean, I personally follow MIT lectures, right, for podcasting whenever, because I'm also interested into media psychology and media economics. So I keep on hearing those lectures, and that's how 2 or 3 disciplines, they emerge and they merge together. That's a good point. But one point that I have noticed over the years, because I have a serious followers of broadcasting and I use podcasting and this content that has been created and curated through these mediums actively for my research. Now, most of these contents are on English. There's a lack of creation of content in vernacular language. I'm not very sure what is the condition for other countries, but in India, there are a couple of content creators who are actually creating content on Hindi. But most of the content creators, they are focusing on either Hindi or English in most of the cases, or they are going bilingual, English or Hindi. But what about the regional language? What about the vernacular language? We have a lot of learners who are coming from the rural areas, right? If you look at the population from the urban perspective, they are one section of it. And we are missing out a large sections where these learners cannot actually listen to and learn from these lectures. And they are forced to. In India, unfortunately, in many of the universities, we have to study through English. That is a way of, learning mediums. Even if you look at the media, media industry, vernacular media is having a good percentage of the entire industry, but we are sadly, focusing on English, right? Mostly. That is a drawback. Then we have AI-generated content enable creating stunning visuals now. Interestingly, as I keep on following international platforms, so this is 2015 World Knowledge Forum. The introductory video was entirely created by AI. Even the chairman of International Knowledge Forum, when he was introducing the forum at the very in 2025 summit, he has mentioned about the AI, and the entire introductory video was made out of with the help of AI. Now, there's a caution that what AI can do and what can I do, what they cannot do, and what they should not do, right? And what is happening is that there are local artisans. For example, I see the popular, podcasters or the YouTube content creators. They're constantly creating videos. At the same time, the local artisans, or for example, storytellers. If you go and reach out to the rural pockets of different states, we'll see the storytellers who tells the stories in their own local dialect and own local languages. So are we reaching out to them? So, when we are actually creating videos and creating podcasts for the sake of popularity, are we actually not neglecting all those, storytellers, originated storytellers? There are storytellers who beat up the drums and, tell their stories, right? And there's another point which this storytellers, regarding the storytellers, we also have seen, this is one of the drawbacks, where interlanguage transition works is lesser and lesser, right? So what we are seeing that even in the vernacular languages, they are retailing the stories in the local languages which are from the international, writers. For example, stories from Shakespeare. I mean, the Shakespeare's. Then there are, international authors. They are actually retailing the stories and in their own narratives. But what about there are a number of writers who are writing the stories in Marathi, Gujarati, Kannada? Are we actually translating those works? The podcasters, are they actually working on those grounds and translating those stories? Because there are beautiful, beautiful stories and beautiful, information that are there in those, in the form of stories. Now, if we have this sum up where there are a couple of other benefits, archiving the recordings, where we keep on talking about the archivings. There are a couple of channels who actually archive some of the recordings. For example, if you go to YouTube, we get to also listen to the original voice of Rabindranath Tagore, where he sang Bengali song in his original voice. So that is something to be archived, and that is same for many of the other artists, right? Fostering innovations, obviously, and then access information for the people will functional literacy or no literacy. So this is one of the benefits of having podcast in different languages, where it is beneficial for people with hardly have any literacy, or they can actually work with the literacy, I mean, the kind of having a marginal literacy or functional literacy. That's learning for them. Skill improvement, I can keep on seeing that. People are actually learning, especially in the coding skills, or even musics are being taught on online. I tried to learn sitar over YouTube videos, but I failed. Then I realized it's not possible to learn sitar over YouTube videos. I have to go and seek a Guruji. But something which cannot be learned over internet, right? Then the challenges, the most crucial challenge that we face is a authenticity check. Content that are mostly restricted to the audio files and audio format, capable of causing digital divide. And I keep on taking these examples in the classrooms that now people are, especially in the next generations, they do not go out. They are actually, whenever I see them, even when I was also traveling here, I could see that probably the generation who was 10 years, 12 years younger than us, they are constantly plugging their headphones in their ears and listening. They are in their own world. So that might be one of the problems. But we are not sure what kind of quality content they are consuming, or the content they are consuming, how authentic they are. Limited by the dominant language. Now, what are the scopes? I guess that would be the outcome of the discussions, that where we can have the improvement on the narrative, reaching out to the narrative storytellers. For example, reaching out to the rural pockets and regional pockets, where we can reach out to the people and record their storytelling in their original dialect. So there are some of the podcasters, they are going out and reaching out to this pocket, but again, I have seen that they are being diverted on what is being popular and what is not being popular. So that is one of the issues, again, lies. Limiting the usage of AI is fine, because, I keep on sending out call for chapters for edited volumes. And the last book, I was sort of surprised that there was an assistant professor. I mean, got gotten a chapter from one of the faculty members, and when I went for AI check, I found 85% of the chapter is written through AI. So there was a scholar included into it, but I was surprised at how a faculty member could overlook this fact. For the sake of topic, I might think if I'm also taking it that probably the scholar has done it, but how can a faculty member overlook the situation where 85% of the content has been generated through AI? Then broad diversity of the content is very much important, because it's not about horror stories or creative, the popular genres that we need to cater to. There should be other areas, right? And also more power to the hybrid format. Now, if we want to reach out to the next generation, I think, for example, if we see the videos on NPTEL or some of the platforms, they are very, very enriching and they are very, very informative. But probably, for example, I was following one series of lectures on consumer psychology. It is very informative. They talk about theory and practices, research practices, but I felt it does not have that impact factor to it. For example, it does not include, it includes case studies, but in a very boring manner. So if you can illustrate it, if you can use the technologies like whiteboard animation, or for example, some of the animation factors, or for example, pictures to it, that would actually make the content very appealing. Because attention span, I guess those who are actually teaching in the classrooms here, they have seriously faced that even 5 years from now, the attention span student used to have, they are constantly, having a reduction in that. We have, half of the time we have to shout in the class that please be quiet. I'm not being able to deliver. So, so that's why it has to be a very creative approach, but at the same time, it has to be very prominent, at the same time, authentic. Now, with my closing thoughts, we must be careful about the misinformation, disinformation, and information overload. Because I remember during our college time, we used to have 2 classes at the same time in the same way, the same subject. And now within 50 or 55 minutes, the students get exhausted, right? And we are looking at these generations for the change maker, right? And the last one, we do not always need to conquer the world, I think, but we need to conquer ourselves to make a better version of ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sayak Pal, for a very illuminating intervention on the theme of the session. Now we move on to the last speaker of this session, who's from Russia, Miss Anna Babina is here. Anna Babina graduated from the law faculty at St. Petersburg State University in 2014 and started a law practice in 2018. She tried her hand at creative writing also. She is a laureate of the Pushkin Lyceum Literary Prize 2025, winner of the Davida Art Cluster Publishing Program 2021, and laureate of the Russian and international literary competitions. She is the author of the novel Presumptions of Guilt and Signs of Indifference and the storybook The Coefficient of Addition. Her stories and novels have been published in Russian literary magazines. Ms. Babina.
Good morning. Let me start from a short retrospective about Russian radio. Radio was invented by Russian scientist Alexander Popov in 1895 in St. Petersburg, which is my hometown. He carried out his test successfully. On February 27, 1919, human speech was heard over the radio for the first time. It replacing Morse code. The first words were in Russian. Hello, hello, this is the Nizhny Novgorod laboratory. 1, 2, 3, can you repeat? Nizhny Novgorod is a city in Russia. Regular radio broadcasting began in the Soviet Union in 1924. Then radio has been used as a strategic mass media in our culture. In Soviet Union, all broadcast corporations were national and the government considered it as the main mechanism of information the citizens and a tool of propaganda. During the Great Patriotic War, reports from the battlefields were translated by radio. If you ever heard about the Leningrad siege or Leningradskaya blokada, you must know that the only information channel between Leningrad and the main land was radio. Besides, radio literally saved their lives because it translated the alert signal. After the Second World War, radio continued to play an important role in people's lives. It was the main way of entertainment. Soviet radio broadcast music, plays, and stories, but it continued to be a strategic system. In each town, households of the USSR, there was a radio called Radio Point, which didn't need electricity at all, using a special cable system. Other people had got transistors. Radio was aimed at the military system, especially as a nuclear threat warning device. After 1990, lots of commercial radio stations were founded and run in Russian Federation. They had different special. My contemporaries don't listen to radio for the most part. The one person I know who has a radio point at home is my grandma. And even she turns it on extremely rarely. My friends listen to radio only while they are driving over the long distances. Could we call the process radio dying? Yeah or no? Technological progress in modern society has brought new forms of communication between people and between business and society. Consumers of the content demand a permanent online presence from media outlets and brands here and now. In turn, mass communication is transforming media society and moving toward informational communications. Podcasting is the process of creating and distributing digital audio files, which, together with the text and possible non-verbal materials like music, are posted on online platforms in the form of serial episodes for subsequent download to users' fixed and more mobile device. Nowadays, podcasting is a dynamically developing system in the internet media format with powerful creative potential. The main advantage of the podcasts is that they are available for delayed listening, unlike radio broadcasts. Each person determines the time and the place at their own discretion. There are different themes of podcasts which are popular in Russia. As a writer, I keep an eye on literature podcasts. Some of the projects started by writers, another part is underway by literature critics. Besides, I think you know that figure skating is one of the most popular sports in Russia. I like it so much because in that I became good at understanding rules and features. My friends invite me to participate in recording podcasts about figure skating. Also, there is a theme which is incredibly popular among the young people all over the world. I mean the true crime podcasts. There is an opinion that such a content allows us to reduce the level of anxiety. Besides, it draws attention to the problems in society. As for me, I find a plot for my book, Science of Indifference, listening to the True Crime podcast. It's a story about a sorrowful indifference of the law enforcement agencies in Russian city Barnaul. In this example, we can see that each kind of podcast can inspire our creativity. We can listen to podcasts led by authors all over the world. We can learn about what is happening and what is important for people. This is the right path to cultural enrichment and rapprochement, isn't it? Thank you. Спасибо.
Thank you, Anna, for your intervention. Now we move on to the most interesting part of the session, that is discussion. And we have three discussants for this session. Shri Tawhid Haqqani, who is a scholar of Urdu language and literature. He holds an MA and MPhil in Urdu from the University of Delhi and Jamia Millia Islamia, along with a BA honors in history from St. Stephen's College. With over 5 years at All India Radio as an announcer, newsreader and translator, he has also collaborated on translation project with the University of Nottingham. The other speakers, the other discussants are Ms. Chinmaya Babbal, is a doctoral candidate at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Delhi. She completed her master's in English literature from the University of Delhi and her undergraduate studies from St. Stephen's College. As part of her doctoral studies, Chinmay is looking at the representation of caste in partition literature. Beyond this, her larger research interests include women's writing, South Asian literature, memory studies, and oral tradition. The next discussant is Ms. Taruna Tokas, who is an assistant professor at Lady Shri Ram College for Women, University of Delhi. With over 10 years of teaching experience, she holds a BCom and MCom from the University of Delhi and has submitted her PhD thesis at Amity University, Noida. She also holds the Cambridge CELTA certification. Her academic engagements span undergraduate teaching in commerce, management, human resources, and English language education. Over to you, discussants.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank National Book Trust for giving me the opportunity to speak at this conference. I would be happy if both these speakers share their perspective on a point I'm going to make. Radio, because I come from the radio background, once radio was a popular medium for entertainment and listening news. But right now, the popularity of radio going down. It has been limited to FM radio, the short wave and the medium wave, and some regional channels are going through this. The memory of short wave and medium wave channels are fading away from the people, from the memory of the people. So when we talk, when we talk about the audio content, youth are listening audio content. They listening stories, they are listening audio books, but they are not listening radio station. So if you can give some suggestion, or if you can give some suggestion for change, what would it be? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a fascinating change that we grew up. For example, my generation grew up listening to the radio. I mean, I still remember we used to sit down and wait for, there used to be one audio story, Sunday Suspense, used to come on radio, and I used to wait for it. Now, the problem lies with the number of variants and number of options that people have. We were very limited with the choice at our time. But now the generation, I mean, how much we listen to the radio. Whenever we listen to anything, I mean, we can go for online podcasting, we can go for online streaming on the radio that is compatible at the same time. How many of us still have those old radio sets, or we buy radio sets? We go for online, right? If we have to listen to the online broadcast, I mean, international broadcasting like BBC or CNN broadcasting, you go online and listen to it. The moment we come to online, we have a number of choices. So diversion is very, very easy there, even for us. And the same thing when I ask students that do you listen to this program? Do you still listen to this program or that program? They say no. I mean, we go for YouTube. Even most of the radio channels has gone online. They have now started broadcasting online. Again, from the business perspective, they are actually going for the views, and that's a way of revenue generation. And it's sometimes I feel it's convenient. And I still remember we used to, for our old old mobile phones, we used to have radio as an app. Now that thing is also gone, right? So evolution happened, and we actually migrated from the physical radio and radio app to virtual platform. It's, I wouldn't say it's dying, but it's changing its form. It's getting into a new format. So we need to stress on that, how the migration from the physical radio and what radio used to be, and what would be the next format, how a smooth transition can happen, and how much we can hold on to the old values and migrated those old values into the new envelope. It's just that way. Ma'am would be able to say from her perspective.
In Russia, traditional radio is used only as musical phone music in a car or in a cafe. That's why I think that it's a normal process that you can use online radio and listen to all you want in time when you want.
To add on to that, I still remember our action when the internet came on, or we started having access to computers. I remember we used to download some of our favorite musics and favorite shows, and need to keep them stored. Now we do not need to store them. It's already been stored on YouTube or Spotify or on the platform. So I guess that is one the choice. We have been given more choice. We have been now we are having a lot of options to fill our hunger. So in that way, traditional radio is, I'm saying again, it's not dying. It should go on with the pace, but I mean, we need to make sure that the change is very soothing, or it's very, so that we do not lose out the essential values or old values of the radios.
Can we have the next discussion?
Hello, a very good afternoon to everybody present here. First of all, I would love to express my heartfelt gratitude to NBT and SCO for providing such a wonderful platform to all the speakers and us as discussants. I'm sure with all the discussion that we have had, all of us can agree that podcasting can actually be claimed to be one of the most popular genre or brands of the new media. So much so that all the traditional media houses also have now realized that there is a need for them to also come up with their own podcast. So from Indian Express to Times of India to BBC, all of them have their own podcast now, and not one, they have one for sports, one for entertainment, one for everything. Also, in a simple Google search that I did this morning about top Indian podcasts, so the results that came were there is a Hindi crime podcast, there is On Purpose with Jay Shetty, and the Mahabharata. So, I mean, I was amazed by the diversity of preference of Indian audience. Also, I think there is a way in which traditional radio has historically shaped India's collective consciousness from the time when everything was only announced through radio to now we have apps like In Shorts and whatnot. But podcasts now offer a more personalized and niche content that caters to all generations in all forms, especially millennials and Gen Z. So my question to Dr. Sayak is, sir, how do you think this shift from mass broadcasting to on-demand interactive podcasting transforms the future of the way Indian listeners engage with, first of all, stories, history, and community identity?
Yeah. So one of the answers is lying within your question. I mean the keyword that is the interactivity. Like it has become one-way communication to two-way or multiple. I mean it's a non-linear communication. It has informed into, right. So where on radio, I remember if we had any celebrity interviews, and we could have reached out to the celebrity by phone. That was the case for television as well. Now you can simply type on the chat box and they will probably answer those questions, right? So that's an interactive one, and radio has in some ways, especially for the podcast, has started catering to the niche interest of the audience. That's how the bifurcation also happened, right? For example, there's a legendary verdict there's a legendary verdict on capital punishment, punishment in Kolkata jail, central jail, and there was one journalist who was entitled to take the interview of the verdict of that person. Now, she kept quiet about this, and that was a national news. And then, after almost 7, 8 years, she came up with a podcast sharing her horrible experience interviewing a man who was going to die in the next day, next morning, probably. So that's a kind of niche content, and that's a kind of exposure. I mean, if you listen to that broadcasting, you can actually hear the horrifying, tone in her voice, and how she was also expressing the man who was going to die next day, knowing fully aware that he's going to hang to death, and how he expresses. And at the very last moment, also, he was saying that he's he's not a victim. He's a victim of some kind of conspiracy. So that's one such example. And the question is, the next generation audio content creation. We need to be very, very careful when we are talking about the content creation in the vernacular language or local language or niche area, that we need to be very careful about the misinformation and disinformation that is being spread, because there are many podcasters. One of such examples you just took, the top 5. I don't know how much. I mean, they claim to have a research team who is constantly working for them and finding out the facts. There are others also. They are self-proclaimed, knowing everything, be it radioactive substance or any international issues, or any biological development or medicine development. Say they know all the facts because they claim that they are backed up by research team. So that we need to be very, very conscious about. And some of the cases, these people are also living outside of India and running their channels. I'm not taking any name. We are well aware of their channels, though they bring some of the facts, but at the same time they also have a color to it. Most of the time they are biased. So this biasness is very, very dangerous, because they have billions of followers, so who probably would hold on to that particular thought and would believe on it and would react on it.
Right. Can I have one more question, ma'am? Dr. Sayak, you also mentioned the reduced attention span of students in the classroom. Believe me, it is not just your struggle, it applies to all of us educators. So, their attention span is reducing in the classrooms, but when it comes to, let's say, listening to podcasts. So, like the Lallan Top recently, they have started coming up with podcasts that are 3 hours long. And people, they still have viewers, they still have, listeners who listen to the podcasts. So, what are your thoughts about this, that in a classroom it is difficult to sit for 1 hour and listen attentively, but then there are other mediums which are appealing to this new generation? So.
Yes, again, I would say that in classroom we are also, our hands are tightened by some of the rules and regulations. For the sake of making the classroom entertaining, we cannot share the false fact, or we cannot share something which also created problem for Ranveer, right, in the podcast, what he did. So we cannot create, or for the sake of popularity, we cannot say something in the classroom. We need to be abide by the rules and regulations. We need to also, whenever we are talking about theory, we cannot include something which is gibberish, or using slangs in those their classes. So that is one of the reason. But at the same time, if you just randomly pick up students and ask him that and make them sit that you listen to this podcast, which is also very popular. You would find after a certain point of time, maybe they will listen to it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, then they will be like, ma'am, what is next? Can I move on to the next? I don't like it. So their attention span is also, because they are actually listening to this podcast on their headphones. We might not be able to find out that whether they are listening to the one podcaster or they are constantly switching channels. Because I have seen sometimes, because I love to observe people also, especially students, or when I'm traveling, and that's how I'll also love to travel in the public transportation where I get to observe people. So whenever I observe somebody, it's a real culture or the podcast even, they are quickly, for example, very frequently change the reels, and maybe if they are staying on a particular reel or a particular podcast, that would be for 10 seconds maximum, and then they are losing the interest. So this is an aggregate problem. I sometimes I tell them that now you are not listening to the classes. I'm sure some of you will be standing here after 10 years or 12 years with a generation who would be 10 times have less probably attention span than you. I don't know, they might evolve to be something different. I don't know how you are going to handle them. So because we are not being able to handle you in that way, I don't know how you're going to handle them after 10 years. Yes.
Thank you.
Can we move to the last discussion now?
Hi, thank you for such an illuminating discussion. My first question is for Professor Pal. Historically, storytellers in oral traditions had a creative authority, but also obligations to educate and instruct the community. I feel that digital creators too have this, to grapple with this tension between the need for creative expression and this overwhelming pressure to stay relevant and relatable to their audience. So then how do we understand this tension between creative autonomy and market-driven constraints?
Well, to be relevant, there are some of the podcasters we can refer to who are actually producing mostly quality content. They do not care about, the one that I talked about, one of my fellow professor, Dr. Lopamudra Mitra. She is an anthropologist. What she does, she curates the stories, small stories from South Asian perspective and Indian subcontinent perspective, where she has also published a book, and she creates podcast on these small stories. It's on Spotify. So it may not be very interesting to listen, but if you listen carefully, you get to know about the cultural diversity or historical background of those. For example, in one of the stories, she talks about Amritsar and the stories from Amritsar, the stories from Sri Lanka and different places. That's one set, but most of the time, what is happening, what I also mentioned in one of my points, that in order to create engaging content, they are actually focusing more on what is in trend and what is in popularity. Right? We have seen Mahabharata has been replicated in multiple languages and multiple television channels. It's being repeating and repeating and repeating again and again. Right? And there are some particular episodes which people actually, there are high TRPs. Right. So that talks about the interest. Now, yes, it's there. They are losing out the values, and to make the stories very enriching and interactive and interesting, they are spicing up the contents. So in media, we call it spicing it up. Like sometimes we, for a lame story or not natural and normal story, they add spices to it. The facts they curate on their own, and just to increase the value of it. One good example, when we also see on television the Draupadi Vastraharan episode. They have huge number of ads on the episode, and there are repeat telecast on those episodes. And if you went out in the YouTube and checked, there are number of views. The number of views on that episodes are very high. The ratings are very high. To spice it up, I don't know whether the mythology. It's illustrated in that way. What they do on media. So that's one of the drawback. But again, media has become a business. Same like podcasts, they have to rely on the number of viewers or the speaker or the followers. Like most of these podcasters, they have also moved on YouTube because that's a way of revenue generation for them, and it's also pains me that they also have to look for funding. Many of the regional broadcasters, or for example local broadcaster community radios, because I guess many of like Jadavpur University in Kolkata, and there are other universities which are having this community radio channels, and they survive on the university funding, but then also they have to go for advertisers. Now advertisers would obviously look for the rating and more business from it. So they have to go for the content which is popular, and that's one way of it. So I guess if government intervention or some of the organizational intervention is there to curate this content or archive this content which are good, which are quality, and which upholds our culture and diversity, in that way, I guess at the same time we have to promote this content as well, because there's a lack of promotion of this content among the people. You have to promote it. Until unless you promote it, people will not be able to know about it.
I have one more question.
Okay.
I think both you and Anna can answer this. How does podcasting continue the legacy of radio as a mass oral medium, and where does it diverge in form, reach, audience participation?
Okay. I would say that it's helping radio to survive somehow. So whenever I ask in the classroom that, do you know about radio? They talk about, yes, Spotify and YouTube. And do you listen to the radio? Yes, I listen to the radios on YouTube. Their channels, they know about the name of the channels, radio channels and podcasting channels through Spotify and YouTube. So it is one way helping them to survive. That's why they have migrated, and they have the parallel broadcasting now. They also go live and pre-live on such platforms. So they are actually helping out, which is a good way. But at the same time, I think we also need to inculcate for our next generation. As I said, we do not buy radio sets anymore. So we also need to take this onus on us that we also keep this tradition alive, right? Whenever we have something from AIR, or whenever we have something from BBC or CNN, we need to listen to it. Sometimes we need to put down television, we need to switch off social media, and we need to listen to the, for example, when we are having the family gatherings, we can actually during dinner or lunch, when we are all are sitting together, we can tune on the radio like we used to do 15 or 20 years back, right? So that practice is, we are also losing out, right? Yes, ma'am.
As for me, I think that podcasts are the same as radio, and traditional format of radio isn't appropriate for our speed time, and podcasts can help us to receive information all the time when we can do, for example, something or wash dishes in your kitchen or something else.
Okay. I think we had a very interesting intervention by the speakers, and I would like to open the discussion to the audience in case we have some questions from the audience. Okay. Okay.
Actually, I'm curious to know from Anna, what are some popular genres of podcasts that are popular over there?
In Russia, popular true crime, musical podcasts, literature podcasts, political podcasts. That's all. Sport podcast. Thank you.
Any questions? No. There is? No. I don't see. Yeah, please. Can you introduce yourself? Or do you have a mic there? No. Yeah. Please use the mic.
Hello. Yes, my question is to Babina ma'am. You mentioned about how true crime, and even in your speech, you talked about true crime. A lot of the times what is happening is that podcasts, instead of being a mode of oral storytelling, and even Pulsar talked about it, instead of giving it a voice to democratize the space of storytelling for the subaltern and make it accessible, it has become a business. And even particularly this is true with true crime, where instead of making us aware of the problems in society, a lot of true crime podcasts instead exaggerate the scandalous or the salacious details to get the clickbait, to get people to click comments, instead of it leading into something constructive. According to you, how can we be more conscious in choosing what to consume? And as creators, how can we be ethical to make sure oral storytelling doesn't become just a business, but a way to connect and to inform?
I think we must think about we are humans, and we must protect our humanity. It's a complicated question. I catch what you want to say, but I think that all in our world is connected with business, with earning money, unfortunately. And I can't suggest some unique recipe how to avoid this situation, but I think that all of us must remember that we are humans, first of all.
Yeah, if I may add, I guess we need to be less demanding. Because we demand, that's why they produce. The podcasters or the content creators, we demand such drama, we demand such spices, we demand exaggerated drama, right? And they are producing it just to cater to our demands. To become popular is one of the ways that they are actually demands from the consumers, right? So if it is possible for us to be satisfied with whatever content we have been served, or if we keep on demanding more, they will produce something which satisfy our demands.
Yeah. Any more questions? Shall we close this? No. So now we move on and we request our chair, Shri Yuvraj Malik, to sum up the session. But before that, I would like to give a brief introduction. Shri Yuvraj Malik, Director of the National Book Trust India, is a seasoned civil servant and brings with him a distinguished career spanning key roles in the Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Home Affairs, Raj Bhavan, Jammu and Kashmir, and the United Nations Mission in Africa. He has also served as chairperson of the Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology under the Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Education. As Director NBT, Shri Yuvraj Malik has been instrumental in aligning the institution's publishing initiatives with the National Education Policy 2020. Under his stewardship, NBT is implementing the prestigious PM Yuva Mentorship Scheme. He also serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the New Delhi World Book Fair and has led the organization of the Pune Book Festival. As Nodal Officer for the Rashtriya E-Pustakalaya project, he leads the development of a national platform providing free books, e-books to promote digital literacy. His tenure at NBT is defined by innovation, inclusivity, and a steadfast dedication to India's educational and cultural renaissance. Shri Yuvraj Malik.
Thank you so much, Ranjana ji. And at the outset, I would like to congratulate all the panelists with me, Ms. Babina, Mr. Paul, and my colleague from China, Mr. Han, my colleague, moderator of the session, Ranjana ji, and both the discussants, all three of them. It is a very interesting thing to see that we have been able to cover up an entire generation of thousands of years of oral traditions. If you look at India, the traditions were Shruti and Smrti. There was no, data, no internet, no books, no printing, nothing. It was all oral traditions. The gurus, the teachers used to recite, students used to remember and pass on the same content to the generation. So what we are talking in modern context has been prevalent for more than 5,000 years when we talk about the oral traditions of knowledge creation and dissemination in our society. Then came the era of documentation. Over a period of time, we started documenting it on palm leaves, or then paper came, and then printing came, and then further other modes of documentation came. Now again, after these like 300, 400, 500 years, again, now we are again going back and creating same content, again in oral traditions, but this time there is a difference. There is a platform, there is a cloud, there is a server, there is a database, we are being archived, but the traditions are still oral. So when we talk about it, how it is relevant, my colleagues have clearly mentioned that storytelling has been an art of knowledge creation and dissemination in this society. Absolutely right. Whatever we do, whatever we say and document is a story that is being told in different format, maybe video, audio, or through a writing or publishing a book. The era of online literature, as our Chinese colleague has said with me, it's changing. The online literature is changing in different shapes. The content is so much, it's very difficult to figure out where is the center of gravity in that. So the beauty lies in content creation, especially in the audio platform, is just to hit the right center of gravity and get the crux out of that overflowing content and overflowing literature online. Another very important point is like it's a cultural phenomena that has been mentioned. Of course, traditional medias are changing, but most important part is when we are talking about, Sena also told that the radio specifically is largely linked with public transport system in Moscow. I totally agree with her. When I was in Moscow last week, I personally got impressed with that. I listened Matushka more than 50 times. Tatiana's song on My Country in My Motherland, if you hear it, you don't understand the language of it. But you will listen it at least 10-15 times, the kind of beauty that content has. So the idea is the content is the key and content is the king. If the content is solid, it will prevail. One of our discussants mentioned a very important thing that podcasts are coming for 3 hours. I totally agree with you. There's so much of content. But I want to ask a very relevant question. I did this experiment with myself. Every 5 to 6 minutes, there is an ad for 10 to 15 seconds. So in 1 hour, you have almost 10 to 12 ad. In 3 hours, you have 30 to 40 ad. 40 ad multiply by 15 second bare minimum if you go. And it's a forced ad, you can't skip it. So how many minutes you are spending on commercial? So in 3 hours, you are spending 1/3 only watching ads. So it's a creative economy that is working on it. Another question I want to ask is, when you are absorbing a 3-hour podcast from end to end, are you going to ask a question to yourself? Are you watching it for knowledge, learning, or entertainment, or mix of both, or time pass? These are the only possibilities. Your time pass ki theek hai kuch sun lete hain. Now after spending 3 hours on an audio content, if I ask you how many minutes you can speak on that 3 hour of podcast, you will get your answer. Because the absorption decides the quality of the content, how much did you receive. So when we are creating this oral content, radio and everything, if we look into India, the history of radio for last almost 75 years, we go with Akashvani. Of course, World War era, there was a different thing. Then BBC was playing in India. Then there was a channel with love from Russia in the night we used to hear. So these kind of experiments have been happening. But in our public transport system, in early 90s till 2000, when these FM waves and this deregulation of mass media happened, RJs were the celebrities. We were listening in different music, all kind of program we were listening. But over a period of time, the way this digital divide started getting the gap filled, that digital divide became digital equity, the format of oral traditions changed, and now we switched to podcast. Now these podcasts are getting archived. As you said, there are specific podcasts. Podcasts on health, podcasts on mental health, podcast on relationship, podcast on stress, podcast on depression, podcast on medicine. You name a topic, there's a podcast. The problem is not the content. Problem is selecting the right content. It's a problem of plenty in the media. Dr. Pal has said, you have to be very authentic. So those two challenges is, what is the authenticity question of that content that we are absorbing through oral traditions that has to be, discussed and given a thought of it. Another point is, who own that content? IP issues, piracy issues. Newsrooms are changing. We used to hear news on radio. In evening 6:20, BBC and all kind of things used to come. We used to hear and listen cricket news in the evening in 90s era. Things have changed. Now when we are doing it, the media, the radio format is changing. The radio was community radio. Out of 50-20 family, one radio was there. Then everyone had a radio. Then everyone had a radio in their mobile. Now that era was also over. There's no mobile in radio in the mobile. Now what we have is digital platforms for same content. So same RJ who is playing in the morning in the studio is available with a video camera in a podcast with a reel of 5-10 minutes, and again is present on the digital screen. The idea is how beautifully and creatively you put the content into the ecosystem and monetize it. It's purely economy driven thing, whether it's Indian. Now, most important part is, as Mr. Paul has told, the importance of creating content in vernacular language. We have more than 2 lakh registered newspapers, magazines and other publications. 2 lakh every year. Just see the number of platforms we have. But the content that we got, AI has brought news readers now. News anchors are over, so they have created a news anchor. Every academic institution has created a tutor. They have designed a tutor, they feed the content, and that tutor is teaching you. So this is how podcasts are also coming now. But many of us in the rural areas who are not very adept, they cannot make the difference that it is a AI anchor and AI speaker, or it is a real-time content. So that's another challenge of authenticity and credibility. When we go it, we put a small disclaimer. The content is AI generated, which we never read. In a small font size of 6, running in 1/4 second, and you never see it, and then you believe a person is teaching, and it's a very authentic podcast because the viewership is more than 1 million. That's a problem which we have. Now, another point with this changing scenario of oral traditions, radio is, content is being supplemented with effects, AX, VX, so already there. But when we put another musical compositions to it, the entire focus goes on the aesthetics, the expression, what we feel, what we experience, rather than what we want to learn. So the learning has taken a back seat in the modern context, and the other parameters has taken over the core of the content. That's another problem. So we have to keep always in mind that content will always be the key, because the best of the podcast, best of the oral traditions and format are which empowers you, not disempowers you. Attention span is definitely a very big challenge, which not only the educationist, everyone is facing a challenge. Even a person who's getting a ticket booked, he's also facing a attention span problem, because the digital media has given you the liberty to swing your mind, swing your mood within fraction of second. You don't like it, you switch on to the next, because reels are taking over your mind. And that's a very, very big challenge, how AI algorithm is playing with your mood, behavior, and not only behavior, habits, and then your actions also. As far as this thing is concerned, there's many institutions, college, universities do have their podcast. The podcast is not that you're creating content. Podcast actually, if you utilize it, gives you some inherent benefits of power of expression. How beautifully you can express. When you go there, you tend to explain things. It empowers you in many ways. You read it, but only if you do the adequate research, content creation has a relevance. Another point which I think we must understand is that radios, of course, they are very cheap form of entertainment, cheap in terms of monetary value, I'm saying, because it's highly affordable, easily available, and there's no internet data or connectivity issues with most of the radio stations that we have. But now the challenge is, how do they maintain the economy of survivability in comparison to digital format, where you are being paid by YouTube for every view that you are getting. So the crisis for the radio platform is that how do they stay relevant, how do they stay affordable, and how do they keep themselves very, very relevant. Another point which I think that has come up in the discussion is very, very important, like how do we foresee the future of radios? How do we foresee the future of audio, and how do we foresee the future of podcasting? I personally feel that still, though it has taken a big leap, Still we are in the process of, seeing the complete spectrum of it. AI has just taken over in last 24 months in a big way. It was there on the cards for last few years, but last 2 years, there are so many AI research and innovation programs that are being launched, and the content is being created in new formats. In my way, in my understanding, maybe next 1 year you will find that most of the RJs they will struggle because there will be one always smiling 24/7 readily available highly free of cost RJ or a radio anchor or a news reader available in your room, so you don't need a person to give a taxi to get from them home, do it live, record, and then pay all GPF salary and everything. So that is the way the future radio is going to be, and we have to be ready for this transition. Attention span with the readers and viewers is of course a big challenge. IP issues will come up because it's only that you have to change your voice. Content can be copied from anywhere, fed into it, and it will start automatically playing. So the crisis of authenticity is going to multiply as far as we see, and because there's no universal consensus on AI regulations as of now. So unless and until we start thinking how do we regulate law and procedures, it will be again be a big issue. So coming in last few words, I will just say radio have been a great source of entertainment, knowledge dissemination, knowledge awareness. My colleagues said very beautifully that it is not that radio is over. Radio is transforming. It is evolving in different format. It's diversifying. So how quickly we diversify, how quickly we adapt. If we do not have that adaptability, I will say that it is going to become obsolete because big radio phones are obsolete now. It is only those who are relevant, who are contemporary. So we have to update ourselves with this future of technology. We have to upgrade ourselves. We have to reform, and then only with this transformation we can stay relevant. And I'm sure not only entertainment. The idea is knowledge creation, and creative economy will automatically take care of it. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity, and I'm very grateful to all of you for giving a patient hearing.
So, with the permission of the chair, may I close the session?
Please.
But before closing the session, I would like to thank all the three speakers from China, Russia, and India for their very illuminating presentations. I also take this opportunity to thank all the discussants for adding so much of life to the papers and the discussion on the theme. And finally, I would like to thank the chairperson for such an interesting and wide-ranging summing up of this session. Thank you, all of you, and thank you, the audience also, for bearing all of us.
Hello. Thank you. I, on behalf of National Book Trust India, thank our esteemed speakers for such an enriching session. Now I request Ms. Shobha Kapoor to kindly felicitate our discussants. Ms. Taruna Tokas, Ms. Chinmay Babbal, Mr. Tauheed Haqqani. Now it's time for a group photo. I request you all to kindly join us for lunch. Our next session will start at 2:30. Thank you.